You are listening to 600 Second Saga. Today's feature is Please Wash Your Hands by Keith P. Graham. When Noah Suarez was 12 years old, his parents dragged him to the doctor. "Dr. Fiston, he's doing disgusting things alone in his room," his mother said. Noah's father just looked embarrassed and didn't say anything. "Look what I found under his mattress." Mrs. Suarez waved a magazine under Dr. Fiston's nose. She held it still long enough for the doctor to see the cover. "I see what you mean," the doctor said. "This is a problem. He's going to need a shot." "I should say so," yelled Noah's mother, her face red with anger. "I thought that he was inoculated against things like this." Again, she shook the magazine at the doctor. The treatments were supposed to be good for 10 years. Noah sat on the edge of the examination table with a sullen expression on his face. Dr. Fiston listened to little Noah's heart and looked into his eyes, and then waved what looked like an airport metal detector around the boy's body. The doctor read the results on a computer screen and made notes in Noah's file. He shook his head, clicking his tongue. The doctor pulled out an ampule and filled a small syringe with dark blue liquid. "There's a new virus going around," he explained as he tapped the syringe to get rid of the bubbles. "It's engineered to overcome the basic indoctrination doses we administered when he was 5. Luckily," he said as he swabbed Noah's arm with alcohol, "I think we found it in time. This is the antidote, but it only works if injected early. It's a good thing because this one seems very infectious." Dr. Fiston injected Noah in his bicep and squeezed in the blue liquid. He patted Noah's arm and carefully placed a Band-Aid over the injection site. When he was finished, he took a lollipop from the drawer and handed it to the boy. "Take a seat," the doctor said to the Suarez family, stripping the latex gloves from his hands. "I'll give you a prescription for a basic antiviral agent. You'll have to come back for a booster in 6 months. Fiston scribbled on a prescription pad. "Will he ever go," Mrs. Suarez gulped, "back to normal again?" "That's hard to say," Fiston explained. "He's probably going to be all right. Offshore labs are releasing new indoctrination viruses on a daily basis. Most are too complex to last for long. Everyone has experienced an eye virus at one time or another. After a day or two of unexplained craving for Dr. Pepper, you go back to coffee. You may spend a week watching nothing but the UPN channel on TV without realizing it. But you stop as your body rejects the virus. This virus is a bad one, but it may have passed on its own." "How did he catch it?" she asked. "Kids don't wash their hands before they eat. They sneeze and wipe their noses on their sleeves. They are a greenhouse garden for engineered viruses." "But it's so disgusting," wailed Mrs. Suarez. "Yes, the political indoctrination viruses are troubling," he agreed. "The political action groups have much more at stake and much more money to spend. It is strictly illegal, but that does not stop the special interests. Someone releases a new political virus every few weeks, and some are insidious. I've seen extreme cases where the whole psyche is permanently altered." Mrs. Suarez hid her face in her hands. "Please, God," she prayed, "anything but this." Now, Mrs. Suarez, it's not the worst thing in the world. He will outgrow it. By the time Noah goes to college, his immune system will be able to fight off almost anything. We just have to get him through the next few years without permanent damage. After that, he should be able to make up his own mind." Dr. Fiston stood up, and Mr. Suarez followed suit, reaching out to shake the doctor's hand. "Thanks, Doc," Mr. Suarez said. Mrs. Suarez stood up. The large handkerchief she used to dry her tears obscured her face. She grabbed little Noah's arm and left the doctor's office with her husband and son. A few seconds later, Mrs. Suarez poked her head back in the office door. "Doctor," she said, "may I see that magazine for a moment?" Dr. Fiston handed the object to her. Mrs. Suarez unfolded it and read the masthead. It read, "Alt-Right, The Real Truth." Both of them looked at the headlines on the front of the magazine for a second. Then Mrs. Suarez folded it into thirds and stuffed it inside her pocketbook. "I think I'll hold on to this," she smiled sheepishly. She turned and ran from the office to take little Noah to the car. Dr. Fiston immediately went to the sink and began to wash his hands with the strongest antiseptic soap that he had. Yes, he thought as he scrubbed, this virus is dangerous. Very dangerous indeed. He continued washing for several minutes. This was Please Wash Your Hands by Keith P. Graham. Keith is a beekeeper, computer programmer, blues harp player, and science fiction lover. He has worked for IBM, Verizon, and Lockheed Martin where, among many other things, he wrote a large part of the original Easy Pass system for automated highways. Keith is the webmaster for one of the largest and oldest blues harmonica-related sites on the internet, jt30.com. He's the author of the ancient science fiction site c3po.com. He's been reading science fiction since the early 1960s and even has some stories he wrote back then. Now retired, Keith is finally having time to write science fiction and fantasy. He has sold about 4 dozen stories. He lives in New York State with 5 obnoxious cats and Erica. Music is provided by Mads. Learn more about 600 Second Saga, our authors, how to submit your flash fiction, and how to support the podcast in the show notes. This has been Mariah Avix and 600 Second Saga.